On the 25th of July in 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie arrived in Scotland within sight of the Isle of Skye. He had come to raise an army to retake his father's throne or die, and on the 19th of August he raised his standard here in Glenfinnan, which was once the gateway to Skye. However, his campaign was brutally ended 8 months later on the battlefield at Culloden, and Bonnie Prince Charlie was forced to flee for his life. Back at Culloden, the prince's wounded supporters were shot by Cumberland's redcoats, where they were buried in mass graves marked only by rough, uncut field stones. After he fled Culloden, Bonnie Prince Charlie met Donald MacLeod, an excellent sailor from Skye, and he took the prince over treacherous seas to safety. A huge bounty was then put on the prince's head, but Alan MacDonald and 2 other captains stayed by his side to protect him, until Skye's famous Flora MacDonald took him through the hills to Portree, and from there he made for France. And so, just 13 months after raising his standard, the unlucky prince was forced to leave Scotland and never returned again. Any Jacobites that survived Culloden were hunted down. No valley or mountain was safe. Villages were ransacked, families wiped out, and all around Skye, houses and boats were burnt, on the orders of the Duke of Cumberland, who then became known as the Butcher. The Jacobite rebellion was then used as an excuse to erase Skye's culture. Chiefs were stripped of ancestral rights, clansmen became landless tenants, and Parliament outlawed wearing tartan. Some clan chiefs did hold on to estates, but some lost their lands, and others lost their lives, executed at Kilmarnock. The chief's children and kin, now mere tenants, often under greedy new landlords, thousands were forced to leave Skye, and their homes burnt to prevent their return. Forced down on the shore, herded onto old ships, and sent to freeze in Nova Scotia, Skye's clans were broken. Most of the clansmen who remained on Skye after the clearances became crofters, crushed together on small plots of the worst land, where they had to work twice as hard for even half the crops they needed to survive. And when these worn-out crofts couldn't bear any crops, crofters were not allowed fish or game from the land. Instead, their families were burdened with a lifetime's debt, paying high rents for homes they had no right or claim to. This drove men to leave their families for months on end, as they went south to find work, trying to pay their increasing rents and debts. And it was this relentless injustice and poverty that turned crofters against their landlords and led to the Crofters' War. The Crofters' War began with the reclaiming of grazing land on the hill, refusals to pay unfair rents, and free churches were formed to challenge the landlord's God-given authority. But greedy landlords, factors and lawyers at Portree and Edinburgh turned the law against the crofters. For instance, when the men of Braes on Skye were away at sea during the fishing season, one landlord's agents sent 50 policemen from Glasgow to evict the women and children. But the women of Braes were made strong by hard work, and so when Mary Nicholson inspired the women to arise, they drove the policemen off with a hail of stones and peats. In Glendale on Skye, an eloquent church elder called John Macpherson held meetings and organised a land league which spread through the Highlands. And such was their conviction and determination to see justice done, that the landlords conspired against them and plotted to call it another Highland rebellion. Concerned by the landlord's claims of violent rebellion, the government sent a warship to Skye, and when the crofters heard a warship was coming, they called a meeting in Glendale Free Church, where all of the people assembled and wrote their names in a book, promising to stand united. The warship arrived in Lochpulteal, Glendale on the 6th of February 1883, and Marines were sent ashore to put down any rebels. But the people of Glendale were ready, and signals were silently sent through the glen as the Marines received their orders. Dressed in their scarlet tunics, helmets glistening in the sun, the Marines prepared for battle. Instead, as they were marched inland, the Marines were welcomed by everyone, so they were sent deeper into the glen in order to root out the enemy. But, after hours of searching and being welcomed in every home, the Marines staggered back to their boats in good spirits, laughing at the landlord's concerns. However, the landlords and factors were not amused, and so they insisted another meeting be held in the church, where they demanded some men return south with them, or the community of Glendale would be punished. The men who volunteered to be taken south were tried in court on false charges, jailed, and their rights to family contact denied. John Macpherson led the innocent men that went forward to save their community, and they became known as the Glendale Martyrs. Upon his release, John Macpherson returned to his church, which is still in Glendale today, and he continued to fight for the crofters until the government finally crumbled and changed the law of the land. Those men and days have gone now, but the effects of their efforts are as enduring as the memorials erected to their names. The Highland clearances and poverty may have driven many families from their homes on Skye. However, after the Crofters' War, those who remained secured their rights, allowing their descendants to build new homes and successful businesses on these old crofts, where they continue to thrive and build futures worth living for. And those driven from their homeland did not dwell bitterly on their past, but mastered the English language to become great politicians, literary giants, and world-class engineers. Others became masters of finance, many becoming legendary businessmen and leaders in modern banking. The independence Bonnie Prince Charlie imagined for Scotland may have brought the curse of the clearances, but the independence, imagination, and bravery of the resilient Scots have certainly blessed the world.